morning. Welcome to another live film Rashad YouTube channel. Let's get into the Word of God. Sermon on the Mount, chapter 39, Matthew chapter 6, verse 6. It says, "But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is in the unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." Next, let's get into it. The predominant theme in Jesus' teaching on prayer is that it should be done for God's glory, not ours. Make a choice. Whose approval do we want? Because this does not mean we cannot receive compliments or man's approval. Sometimes God blesses us with the encouragement of people. The issue is whether we manipulate the situation in order to get people's admiration. As O.T. can examine, it's Matthew chapter 6, verse 6. There's a contrast between the right way to pray and the way the Pharisees prayed. The right way says Jesus is to enter into your room and close the door. Praying to be received and heard in heaven must be behind closed doors. This way, no human being can see or hear what is going on, because the Pharisees stood in synagogues in the streets for everybody to see. The motive of these hypocrites was to be seen by men. The motive for right praying is to be seen by the Father alone. But the contrast is further seen in the merit that follows each kind of praying. Those who do their praying behind closed doors will receive a reward. When the Father will reward you, thus putting it in the future. The reward comes later. But with the Pharisees, the reward comes immediately. They are paid in full by the people they wanted to impress. Jesus' words will be a big turnoff for the Pharisees. They will say no thanks for turning to pray behind closed doors. That had no appeal to them. But after all, what they did was done for everyone to see, said Jesus Christ. They could not get interested in any praying that was not observed by people. So Jesus thus gives a recipe for the kind of praying that reaches heaven and gets a reward. Behind closed doors means no one knows that you are going to pray. No one knows what goes on behind closed doors. Nor will one ever know what went on. This is the real genius of real praying, because it was the genius of Mordecai who did a heroic deed that saved the king's life, kept quiet about it. God overruled it, kept the king awake one night, led him to look at certain record books. The king noticed that Mordecai had done something stupendous, saving the king's own life. He didn't inquire as to what reward had been given to Mordecai. Note that what the king stepped in, Mordecai was vindicated, beautifully rewarded. Nothing for the Jews was ever the same again. Who knows then what you can accomplish when you're willing to let God do the work for you behind the scenes. Jesus' words are not always to be literally taken literally. Jesus himself can apply it literally. He had no room, no private room or home. Foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests. The son of man has no place to lay his head. The vast majority of the human race do not have a private room. As Michael Eaton put it, most people in the world live 2 or 3 to a room at least, but in Hong Kong, it's common that 7 or 8 people live in a room. It was said a few years ago that students in preparation for exams would go to the airport or other public places just to study. It's impossible to do so at home. These words must not be taken literally. He himself went to lonely places or into hills to pray. Sometimes he prayed in the mornings, sometimes at night, when all were asleep. The principle Jesus imparts in these lines is that we must deny ourselves, kissing any recognition goodbye, other than God himself seeing us. So we are required not only to take time to pray, but to do so with God being the sole witness. Privacy in prayer. The word for you when you pray is in the second person singular here. It's speaking to each person one by one to have for himself or herself private, personal, secret prayer life. It has been seen in the New Testament that embraces public praying in meetings. We all need public praying and gatherings for prayer, by the way. We ought to assemble together, but all those who meet publicly should have their own quiet times of prayer and solitude. Privacy means no disturbance, no distraction, having the ability to concentrate. You must shut out the world. You must shut the world out. And Convict us of all who have places where we can go and be alone to pray. So you will have no regrets at the judgment seat of Christ about time you spent in prayer. Rob Persons was a gentleman that records that nobody ever was quoted saying on the deathbed, I wish I had spent more time in the office. But you may wish you had spent more time in prayer, private time in prayer. You should see more of your private quiet time as God's time. What does privacy allow? But first, personal identity. When you pray, go into your room, close the door, it means God's affirming, authenticating you as a person who, when you come to Him like this, you get undivided attention. You have personal audience with God. A personal private audience with the Most High God. You have a personal invitation from Jesus Himself to have private quality time with your Creator, Redeemer, Heavenly Father. It's so wonderful when you pray in a group. It shows a measure of sacrifice. The you in such a way, in such a case, will be second person plural, as when Jesus introduces the Lord's Prayer. This is how you, meaning you all, should pray. But in these lines in Matthew chapter 6, verse 6, He speaks to you, just you. This is behind closed doors. God wants to esteem you, give you significance, and treat you as a very important person, which you are. Next, immediacy. Personal immediacy. There's a difference between the indirect and direct, the immediate and the immediate. God may speak to you indirectly, as when someone gives you a word that encourages you. That word is mediated, that word to be from God. You have to weigh that word, discern whether or not you believe it rings true. God can indeed speak to you, mediating a word indirectly from Him, as if He does. Take it with both hands. But behind closed doors, be prepared for God to speak to you immediately and directly from the throne of grace to your heart of hearts. It may happen as you read the Bible, read of Him, or ancient prayer, sing a chorus, or just pour out our heart to Him. He may overwhelm you with His presence, with clear insight, with joy unspeakable. Do not underestimate this possibility. Be willing, however, to accept the go between in your life. Generally, a person who mediates a word He or she may intercede, give you a word perfectly timed and perfectly spoken. That would be close to this. Don't despise prophesying, prove all things. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 20 to 21 talks about that, and God may choose to mediate a word to you between or go between. If God were to speak to you immediately or directly, it could be a word for someone else. It may give you a word for yourself. But prayer should not be only about yourself. It should just include praising and thanking God in intercession. Behind closed doors, you have a private audience with God. Lay your heart before Him and say, Lord, I lay myself before you. Enable Him to praise and worship you. Be thankful. Use me to intercede for others. Speak to me as I need to be spoken to. Let's be open, willing, and ready. When we look at the Lord's Prayer line by line, we will learn more about the content of silent praying. The Greek word translated room to Timian is used in different ways in the New Testament. It's related room and storeroom. The RBG Tasker said that the storeroom is where treasure might be kept. Think about it. Your room in which you pray becomes a storeroom of treasure because it's there you meet God directly. It's when you get to know God intimately, like Moses did when God spoke to him face to face. When you meet with God regularly, you get to know Him and know His ways. It means the possibility of personal insight has occurred to you that God may show you something that He kept in the high and mighty scars of the world. If you can keep quiet about it, God might confide in you. He may reveal to you something He has shown to no one else. It may be a word just for you. Praying for others. Don't forget this matter of intercession because, like Tequila said, he challenged people to become a personal intercessor. He knows a few who have interceded for him over the years. People like this are more precious than gold. Interceding, standing in one behalf, and is lost in surprise, one of the most unselfish things you can do. Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 30 says, I look for a man among them who will build up the wall and stand before me in the gap on behalf of the land, so I would not have to destroy it, but I found none. Moses was a great intercessor. Part of his greatness was that he did not farm out ministry intercession to everyone else, but was himself a powerful intercessor. So God said he would destroy them had not Moses, his chosen one, stood in the breach for him to keep his wrath from destroying them. Can you be an intercessor and keep quiet about it? It's a grand thing when one can be a faithful intercessor without telling the world that he or she does this. Even rare is to deceive for someone without mailing in his or her affairs. People will say to high profile leaders, "How can I pray for you?" That sounds so good. But next they want their phone number and address and regular feedback on how their prayers are doing. The last thing the Billy Grahams of this world need is people who pray for them as long as they can be in touch with them. But to be a low maintenance intercessor requiring nothing of the person you pray for is a magnanimous ministry. This honors God and the person you pray for. Let your reward be in heaven. Let it come from God who sees in secret. A great friendship and benefit of being an intercessor is that you get to know God. His way is better than ever. Have a prayer list and pray through it regularly. Praying behind closed doors is therefore one of the best ways to experience the presence of God, manifest himself as he will in your little pretentious place of prayer. After all, I was already there in that secret place. He waits for us there, welcomes us, watches us, witnesses to us. He sees what is done in secret. He will welcome you. Surprising presence. The presence of God is the only presence in the universe that is utterly satisfying itself. For example, what is the advantage, reason, or which to meet with the person, famous person? Is it not to tell it? If you never tell it, would you still want to meet that person? What would his presence or her presence really do for your soul? But in the presence of God, is an expression joy. For in this secret place, you have a soul presence with no other witnesses. There you have secret presence, his secret presence, hidden from the world, unrecognized by the world. His sense presence, you can feel him. His silent presence, no one outside the door will hear a sound. His presence, special presence, he has any number of ways by which he makes himself known. He's surprising presence. You are never prepared for the matter he often chooses to show up. Spectacular presence. God often keeps the public at bay. He does his most notable acts, as when he raises someone from the dead. So why pray behind closed doors? Mainly, the purpose of praying behind closed doors is that nobody knows but God that you're praying. You show by praying in this manner that he means more to you than anybody. You prove it by not telling anybody. He therefore sees that you really do love just him. The Father knows he has you all to himself. He also knows that he might confide in you to share with his secrets, knowing that you won't be blabbing it to the world. The purpose of praying behind closed doors is further seen by revealing your motive, namely, that one is done for his eyes and ears only. There are not many people who love God that much. According to R.T. Kendall, he fears that God likes to show how much he loves those who do love him that much. Yet the very fact that we love him is traced entirely to the truth that he loved us first. There's a slight problem you might like to call it impediment, which we're praying behind closed doors. God's unseen. God's invisible. Jesus letting us know that when you shut the door behind you, nobody's there. God doesn't show up visibly to compensate for there being nobody else in the room with you. So when you are behind closed doors, you might find yourself staring at the floor, the walls, the ceiling, the furniture, being told to one you cannot see. So you carry on in faith. The assurance of what we hope for and the certainty of what we do not see. What makes faith is that you cannot see God and that you keep on praying. David said it best in Psalm 16, verse 8, that I've set the Lord always before me, because he is at my right hand. I will not be shaken. If David could do it, so can I. I set the Lord before me, that is, I picture him there before me. I can do this because he is already there at my right hand, says David. Because he is at my right hand, by setting him before me doesn't make him show up. He's already there. Picture him there. I sometimes find it easy to talk with him. I do this a lot. So the promise follows that the Father who sees, hears me in secret will reward me. How? For one thing, he answers. I may not always be conscious of his answers, but he always answers. I can even pray according to his will, which means I have been heard. But I do not know I have been heard. Never forget that Zechariah prayed for a son and was heard. He was not notified that he had been heard for many years. If I am not heard, it does not mean God is not listening. It means he overrules my request because he has a better idea than mine. That is always the case, but when God seems to say, no, it is because he has a better idea than I had, he said to no to alien advisors. He let decide that raising him from the dead was a better idea. Whereas the hypocrites have already received their reward when they opt for people knowing they pray. There's no end to what God will do. The promise is open-ended, being in the future. No one eye has seen, no ear has heard. The mind has conceived what God has prepared for those who love him. Which also means that we wait for him. The reward may begin here below. It may happen as you pray. The reward may come tomorrow. It will certainly culminate in heaven. But being unrewarded for praying in secret is a categorical impossibility. Praying behind closed doors is the greatest privilege in the world. It's a privilege that people take advantage of. The question is, will you? All right, so I'll be in chapter 40 tomorrow. While I pray, read from Matthew chapter 6, verse 7 and 8. When you pray, do not keep on babbling like pagans. They think they will be heard because of their many words. Not be like them. God knows what you need before you ask. Well, I pray that be it. Let's just get into the what if. What if? Ultimate NBA history book, What If? Book. Volume 3. This time going to be about the Utah Jazz. Interesting franchise. And when this book was published, Utah Jazz had a 54.5% winning percentage. It was fourth in all time, behind the Celtics, Lakers, and Spurs. They were ahead of the Bulls, Heat, Pistons, and Rockets. What makes the Jazz run of success even more remarkable is that the first 9 years of existence in New Orleans and Utah had 0 winning seasons. They were 268 and 470, had a 36% winning percentage. Since 1983-84, the Jazz had gone 1,792 and 1,256. That equates to a 59% winning percentage over a 38-year span. Means from the mid-'80s to the Jazz have essentially been on the same level as the Spurs, Lakers, and Celtics as NBA royalty. The obvious reason the elephant in the room is that it prevents them from being mentioned in the same breath as those more revered NBA franchises. And for good reason, the difference in NBA titles. Since 1983, the Lakers have won 9 NBA titles. The Spurs have won 5 NBA championships. Celtics have won 3 NBA championships. When this book was published, that's what happened here. So how many NBA titles have the Jazz won in that time span since their 47 history began? According to this book, 0. If you look at this franchise, obviously John Stockton and Karl Malone, they had a lot of success, played comparable 37 seasons combined. Stockton played from 1984 to 2003. Malone played from 1985 to 2003. They were the best pick and roll duo in NBA history. 18 incredible seasons, 50 wins that they won. 18 NBA playoff series they won. NBA Finals appearances 1997, 1998. But they couldn't get past Michael Jordan and the Bulls. All right, so let's get into the birth, how this team as a franchise began. On June 7, 1974, it was born as New Orleans Jazz. As the NBA approved the expansion franchise, the second team located in the southern part of the United States. First expansion franchise in the South. Also relocated from St. Louis to Atlanta in 1998. Wait a minute, that's not true. Not 1998. That's not true. Probably false. But anyway, the Jazz I thought that was a perfect moniker for the new team considering the deep-rooted history of jazz. The African American population in the city of New Orleans, similarities that were natural between jazz and music and the game of basketball being pervasive and intertwined with African American culture. The fact that jazz is defined as collective improvisation, great description for the beauty of the game of basketball. But while virtually every other expansion franchise forced into except having a roster full of journeymen, one prize draft pick in the inaugural season, the Jazz bucked the trend by trading two of their expensive draft picks like Coffin, the Member, multiple first picks, 1974 75, two second round picks for 26-year-old Pistol Pete Maravich, the All Star guard. Maravich obviously was ahead of his time, brought showmanship and flair to the game. If the game never been seen before, felt like the perfect marriage from an on-court perspective and philosophical perspective between player, team, and city. Pete Maravich played the game like a true artist in full collective improvisation with hit certain notes gliding up and down the court. His ball handling, scoring prowess, show-stopping pass that had the same feel to it, like a beautiful jazz musician expressing his soul through the medium of music in a dimly lit jazz club on Bourbon Street. So 74-75, they started their season, inaugural season, finishing with 23-59 record. Um, Walt Bellamy was on the team, future NBA coach Rick Hadelman, Henry Bibby, and Neil Walk. Their first coach was fired after 15 games. They were 1-14. Belgian Villa took over as head coach Butch Van Bedekoff. Coached the final 66 games. They were 22-44. Pistol Pete averaged 21.5 points a game, 6.2 assists, 5.3 rebounds a game. They drafted in 1975 NBA draft 7-footer Stanford center Rich Kelly, 7th overall pick. Mavericks had an elite season in 1975-76. The Jazz played most of their games in Louisiana Soupstone. His averaged 25.9 points, 5.4 assists, 4.8 assists, 46% shooting. He was not named an NBA All-Star in 1976, but he did get named to the NBA All-Star first team. And for 1975-76, the Jazz made a big jump to 38-44. The Jazz made a splash move in the summer of 1976, acquiring perennial All-Star Gail Goodrich from the Lakers. Then there was stroke of bad luck. He had injured his Achilles 76-77 season. They missed the postseason with 35-47 record. Maravich averaged 31.1 points per game, career high, led the league in NBA scoring. NBA scoring at 5.4 assists and 5.1 rebounds. Still the highest scoring average in a single game for any Jazz player. All NBA first team and second. It's the final time in his Hall of Fame career. He scored 68 points against the Knicks, along with 6 assists, 6 rebounds, and 68 points on February 25th, 1977. 77-78, Jazz acquired bruising big man Chuck Robinson and the Hawks. Had a solid trio of Maravich, Robinson, and Goodrich for the 77-78 season. Robinson must have liked the B-Nets of the gumbo or something as he took his game to another level and had the best season of the NBA career by a mile. All-Star, first time in NBA, his NBA career in 78, led the NBA in rebounds, 50.7 per game, 15.7 rebounds per game, averaging 22.7 points per game. Was named All NBA first team. Maravich missed 32 games due to injury, but averaged 27 points still, 6.7 assists. Still missed the playoffs. Had 6 blocks. They missed the playoffs. 39-43 record. 78-79 season was another frustrating one for Goodrich as he continued to decline. Average missed 39 games due to injury. They traded Chuck Robinson to the Suns, acquired Spencer Haywood from the Knicks. 78-79, Haywood was a talented player, Hall of Famer, had the truly elite numbers of his career in 34 games with the Jazz, averaging 24 points, 9.6 rebounds. Then it talks about why did the Jazz fail in New Orleans. Number one, they never had a suitable facility to play in. So they played at the Loyola University Fieldhouse in 74, 75, played in the Superdome. The relationship was strained from the start. It was because the Superdome was home to the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans of the venue prioritized Saints games. They had a bad landlord that was there. High city taxes was a reason. Second reason, 11% amusement tax. That's the highest in the nation. So it's like the companies all according to the city at the time, resulting in a very low in corporate season ticket sales and big shooter for most NBA franchises. Third was some poor personnel decisions that just wasn't good. That's another reason. They were proved to be located in Salt Lake City. So Utah Jazz were born and struggled initially. So once they moved to Utah, at 1980 NBA draft, they drafted Darrell Griffin. Adrian Dantley averaged 28 points, 7.6 rebounds per game. 1979-80 season, they were 24, 58. Maravich missed 65 games. So in the draft, they drafted Darrell Griffin in the 1980 draft, who have a 10-year NBA career. But they will pass on one of the better forwards in NBA history, and Kevin McHale. He dealt Bernard King to the Warriors in 1980. So 1980. They were 28 54 again. They evidently led the league in scoring, 3.7 points. Griffin led, he averaged 20.6 points per game, was Rookie of the Year. Also, Jazz had a chance to, while they traded the draft rights to NBA legend, physical force Dominic Wilkins, changed for Freeman Williams and All-Star junior John Drew. So that didn't work out. Wilkins was able to go on and have a great career, 7 NBA All-Star, all NBA appearances, 27,000 career points. Utah drafted Mark Eaton, 1982, 7'4", UCLA. Lots of things were changed once they got Stockton alone. 84, they drafted Stockton. So Danley continued to do his thing. He won comeback player of the year, 1983-84, averaging 3.6 points a game. Named All-Star, NBA All-Star. By an All-NBA appearance of his career on an All-Star NBA second team. Did his thing. Darrell Griffin lay in 20 points per game average. Drew averaged 17.7 points a game. '45, '37, '83, '84. The '84 season, not that season's over, the off season, man. The draft, they drafted John Stockton, the Utah Jazz. That's when they started going to have great success, going to the playoffs a lot. Then they drafted Carmelo in '85. Everything started to take shape during the late '80s, early '90s. So I'm gonna go with everything because they had a lot of success, books for itself. So they just didn't win a championship. Self-explanatory. Lost the Bulls in 1997, '98. Let's go to the what if. What if? Gail Goodrich. Guys like Carlos Boozer and stuff like that. But they never was like on that level. They need to be. Jerry Sloan was a big time coach, very underrated coach. Did his thing. Metro did his thing in 2020. NBA players added, he scored 57 points in the playoff game against the Nuggets. Let's move on. It's Gail Goodrich. What if the Jazz never acquired Gail Goodrich in 1976? They already had one star in Pete Maravich at the time. Due to his creativity and showmanship, have been rarely seen in the NBA since. They thought that adding Gail Goodrich at the time would attract more support. Goodrich signed a 3-year, $1.4 million contract in the summer of 1976. True NBA free agency didn't really exist for players until 1988. Not surprisingly, sued the league over it. The free agency began in 1981. The Jazz had to send back the team to the team they signed away Goodrich from the Los Angeles Lakers. They agreed to send the Lakers the first round pick, 77, 77, 78, 79. All that for a 33-year-old point guard, who chose to sign with the Jazz after the contract dispute with the Lakers. In a roundabout way, Jordan led to that idea being concocted by former Indiana Pacers general manager Tom Newell in 1984. Newell wanted to acquire some young talent from the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for draft capital, but the Pacers were haunted by the fact that they traded away their first round pick, protected in the 1984 draft, way back in 1977 in exchange for backup center Tom Owens. And the pick ended up being the third pick of the 1984 NBA draft, turned to none other than Michael Jordan. So Lakers selected Kenny Carr in 1977 draft. Then in 1977, the Jazz finished with the worst record in the Western Conference. Lakers are, as a result of the Goodrich signing in 1976, had a coin flip for the first pick of the 1979 NBA draft with the Chicago Bulls. Lakers won that coin flip, and obviously they was able to get Magic Johnson. So the Jazz decision to sign Gail Goodrich in 1976 put the wheels in motion for the short-time Los Angeles Lakers of the 1980s, one of the very best dynasties in NBA history to exist, and placed the NBA's most marketable star ever at that point in the league's second biggest and glitziest market in Los Angeles. They were the two saviors of the NBA in the 1980s, and Magic Johnson and Larry Bird to play for the most storied and possibly valuable franchises the NBA had opposite coast of country. The decision to sign Gail Goodrich in the summer of 1976 and after that is one of the most historically significant things to happen in American professional sports history. Prevented the team from winning potentially multiple NBA titles in the 1980s, but also may have preserved the league's very existence and allowed it to be in a situation where it blossomed to the very surrounding success, picture of worldwide pop culture that it is today. So, Magic Johnson was on the Chicago Bulls in the 1980s because of their aforementioned trade with the Pacers in 1977. There's very little chance the Bulls still would have selected Michael Jordan in 1984, and the NBA's two biggest superstars in the 20th century would have been on the same team. Can you imagine a world with Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan playing together in the 80s and early 90s? So let's say Magic Johnson is on the Jazz. Then don't forget the Utah Jazz drafted a 20-year-old big man, the pre-NBA ABA merger in December 1975. They asked the NBA if they could give up the rights for the ABA merger special draft in 1976 in exchange for their right to regain a first-round pick in 1977 NBA draft. They lost That's a conversation for the sign Gail Goodrich in 1976. That was Moses Malone. So Jazz is the sign Gail Goodrich in 1976, and result decision made that same summer as a result of the original decision also cost them one of the other five greatest players of the 80s and Moses Malone. So they could have Moses Malone and Magic Johnson on the same team. Right, so look at the outcomes of revisionist history. Magic Johnson spent his career with the Utah Jazz instead of the Lakers. The Showtime Lakers never existed, and Magic teams up with another Hall of Fame center, Moses Malone instead of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Lakers likely never have a dynasty in the 80s. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's legacy is greatly affected. And also, we never get the rekilling of the Lakers-Celtics rivalry in the 80s with Bird and Magic. NBA possibly never becomes the phenomenon it has. Most Malone and Magic Johnson are both viewed as top five players in NBA league history. The Jazz are potentially viewed as the NBA's second best franchise behind the Celtics. The Celtics never get Most Malone in 1982, like it never won an NBA title in the 1980s, affecting Julius Erving's legacy. Karl Malone and John Stockton are never in teammates in the NBA. There's an alternate universe where Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan are teammates in the 80s on the Bulls. All right, so that's it for that. I'll be in the Washington Wizards tomorrow. But yeah, I think that's be it for the book. But if George Morrison never agreed to be in my giant big Billy Crystal, 1997. Be it for this volume, this book. That's it. You may tune in today. So I'll be back tomorrow. Till then, talk to you tomorrow.